I don't want you to think of boundaries like walls. I really think of them like fences with gates that you control. And they're different for every person in your life. And setting boundaries is all about if you, then I rules that you follow. They're for you, they're not for other people. So they are to honor you. They are to protect you. They are to stay true to you. Boundaries are all about you. So they sound like if you do this, then I will do this. That's always how they're set up. Welcome to Becoming Tantalum with me, Megan Bennell. Discover your brightest self in a journey of transformation and resilience. Let's embark on this path together, starting now. Hello, my lovely listeners, and welcome back to another episode of Becoming Tantalum, the podcast where we get raw, real, and a little bit nerdy about personal growth and success. I'm your life coach, Megan Bennell, and today we're going to dive into a juicy topic: the tools and concepts that you can use to have better relationships. So whether it's with your partner or your family or your friends, these tips will help you build stronger, healthier connections with whoever you're in relationships with. So go ahead and grab a drink, coffee, tea, wine. I'm not judging here, and let's get to it. So before we dive into those tools and concepts, I want to lay a little bit of groundwork here because I have a very different definition of relationships than you probably do. So I just want you to be open to this idea, try it on, see if it's something that you think you can adopt. It made a world of difference in my life. I define relationships as the sum total of your thoughts and feelings about that person. Okay, so when you're in a relationship, your relationship with that person is the sum total of your thoughts and feelings. Where this comes from. So remember that I've talked about results depending upon your actions, that those actions are driven by your emotions, and that those emotions are directly tied to the thoughts that you're having. Well, relationships are no different. The thoughts that you have about a person will determine how you feel and how you act and the results that you have. And so that sum total of your thoughts that then are tied to your feelings about a person is really the definition of your relationship with them. And I can give an example of this. So let's say that you receive flowers. Okay. We all love getting flowers. Maybe we don't love getting flowers, however you feel about getting flowers. But who that comes from really determines how you feel about it. So if some man that you deem to be creepy comes up and gives you flowers in a way that you deem to be very creepy way, you will not take that as a loving gesture, but rather a creepy gesture. Again, all you did though was receive flowers. Instead, if your boyfriend, your best friend, your mom, your husband, your wife, if they give you flowers, all of a sudden you're filled with love and you feel appreciation and gratitude and affection, all those things, because you're thinking about that person who gave you the flowers and you feel like that's an act of love from them. But it's the same act. Somebody gave you flowers, but what you thought about that person determined how you felt about those flowers that you got. So I believe that a relationship really is just your whole bucket of thoughts and feelings about that person. So on a super simple level, if you want to change your relationship with someone, you need to change your thoughts. Your thoughts, not their thoughts, your thoughts. So try that on as we go through this episode and see what you think. This is where I would also like to remind you that all of this, making healthier relationships, changing relationships, is up to you. You don't have to change your thoughts. You don't have to change your results. But I also want to remind you that maybe your current thoughts are justified, but maybe they're not serving you. So I'm not saying that your thoughts aren't right. I'm not saying that there's not a reason that you have them. I'm just saying that maybe changing your thoughts would change the results. And I'm also not saying that all of your thoughts have to be positive or hunky dory. All of this is up to you. It's in your control. It's in your hands. If you want to have a better relationship with someone, if you are feeling icky, sticky, stuck, try changing your thoughts. That will change how you feel. That will change how you behave. And that could change everything. There's an author I love, Elizabeth Brown, and she said it super simply. She said, it takes only one person to change a relationship. And I personally, and have experience in this, believe that to be 100% true. So here's where it oftentimes gets sticky. A lot of times we have difficult times in relationships because we have a terrible relationship with ourselves. Perhaps that rings true for some of you. And if it does, you are so not alone. It rings true for a lot of people. And it's super natural for many of us to have an unhealthy relationship with ourselves. That's not something that's uncommon. It includes negative self talk and low self esteem and not trusting ourselves to honor our commitments, the whole gamut, all the things. But that leads to us having an icky, sticky belief, even if it's subconscious, that other people are better than us. So, if that might be true for you, here's the kicker. We then project that unhealthy relationship and that yucky belief on other people and subconsciously assume that they believe the same. And you can see that if we think they're believing the same back to us, what we're thinking about them and their actions and their words, we're putting it all through that filter of us not being good, us not being great, them being better than us. And that's all coming from us. So, why I'm mentioning this here is because in order to have better relationships, we have to have a relationship that's better with ourselves. That's paramount to every other relationship. That is because the relationship that you have with yourself is the foundation upon which you build relationships with other people. And so if you have a shaky, broken foundation with the relationship with you, yourself, then every relationship you build on that is going to be shaky and broken. So where do you start? You need to work on the relationship you have with you. And there's a few episodes that you can go back to get some tools and tips and tricks on this. But if you're looking for a quick start, go to episode 24 and we talk about shifting your self image. And that's a good place to start because the work that you need to put in first is not on the relationships that you have with other people, it's on the relationship that you have with yourself. To start that process, you can do something called a brain dump, and you're basically filling up an entire paper, asking yourself prompts and answering those prompts on paper. So you might ask yourself things like, what are my thoughts about me? What do I like about myself? What do I dislike about myself? What do I think about myself in relation to my goals? How about in relation to other people? What do I think about my looks? What do I think about myself in relationships? All the different aspects of you. Do I trust myself? Do I believe in myself? And fill up an entire paper. Dig really deep. Go deeper than those initial 3 to 5 thoughts that you have that come out at the beginning. Fill up the entire paper and it will be revealed. It will become very clear where you need to put work. That has to be done first. You have to strengthen the relationship that you have with yourself, and that's going to allow you to have a firm foundation to help all of your other relationships grow in a healthy way. And it's crazy, but just doing the work on yourself will automatically improve other relationships without you specifically putting work into them. It's a little bit of magic. So that's where you should start. Once you do that, then the work can begin on other relationships in your life. And remember, I'm talking about relationships as the sum of your thoughts and your feelings about the other person. So you can do the work without the help of the other individual in whatever relationship you're working on. And I hear so often that in order to fix a relationship, you need to sit down and talk and find compromise and work on conflict resolution and make sure everyone's needs are met and that both people need to sacrifice. And I just don't agree. I will never approach it that way. I never use that with my clients. I would never suggest that. I think it is far more effective when you're starting to work on building better relationships or fixing relationships you have to take responsibility for yourself first, your own choices, you showing up purposefully, on purpose, intentionally, with a clean mind to have honest conversations. And until you can do that, there's no point in sitting down and having conversations. So to do that, you have to work on yourself because you can't have that clean conversation with a clean mind if you are in survival mode. And what I mean by that is we are wired to stay safe, to be efficient, and to seek instant pleasure. And when we're in that survival mode and we're not thinking with our logical brain, all of our reactions, and I call them reactions, not responses, to others are going to be based on that survival mode. And that's not the way to approach a relationship. You need to clean up your thoughts and your beliefs so that you can come from that logical place and not from a place of survival mode. You can't control where the other person's coming from ever, but you can clean up you first so that you can respond to them in an appropriate way. So here's where conversations go wrong. And keep in mind, you can only control you. You're going to hear that like 15 times throughout this podcast. You can only control you. So in conversations, and this is just human nature, everyone wants to be right. That's the human survival brain natural instinct. And because we have that instinct, we interpret everybody's words and actions through our survival brain of being right, of being safe, of being efficient, of seeking immediate pleasure. And on top of that, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, we have this manual for how we believe everyone should react and behave. But we don't dare share the rules of that manual with them. No, 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 no. It's a silent manual of expectations that we have. We just know that they should act in a certain way, that they should say certain things, that they should respond in a certain way. But the problem is, you can only control you. You can have an opinion, and so can they. And it doesn't need to follow that manual that you have. You can feel one way, and they can feel another. And it doesn't have to follow that manual. One person doesn't have to be right and the other one wrong. As my sister-in-law says, she says, it is and it is. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I love that because we need to be able to approach with a clean mind, not in survival mode, having ourselves fixed first so that we can have a healthy relationship, changing our thoughts and our feelings, ours, not theirs, in order to have better relationships. You don't need to control or change people or people please people to have a better relationship. You just have to focus on managing you and thinking differently. You need to own that the feelings come from your thoughts. So your feelings in that relationship come from your thoughts and nothing else. When we don't take responsibility for that simple thing and the results of it, that's where our behaviors and our words become controlling or threatening or manipulative or avoiding or lying or people pleasing or full of resentment and so much more. So we need to take responsibility for ourselves. The power is in our hands, our mind, for what we think and what we feel. I'm going to give you some tools and some concepts today that will allow you to stop trying to make someone else act or feel or believe in a certain way and truly take responsibility on the only thing that you can control, which is you. But before we dive into that, here is where I get a little bit of pushback. So I hear all the time, and I'm sure that you have too, that relationships are work. I couldn't agree more. I do. I think that relationships are work and they can be a lot of work. But people then expect that that work is being put in from both sides equally. So I'm going to work and they are going to work. But you can't have that expectation. You can't expect other people to do anything, just you. The work that you want to put in lands on you, but it can still make a world of difference. So if you want a relationship to change, the only thing that you can do is your piece, changing your piece. Will that fix every relationship? No. But will it bring love and peace and clarity and confidence to you in every relationship? Yes. And so being in that place will allow you to determine then what you want that relationship to look like in your life. You might have some decisions to make. You might see that putting in the work on your end inspires them to do the same. That's awesome. You might see that you putting in the work on your end solved everything. That would be beautiful. You might see that you putting in the work and them not putting in the work made it clear that this isn't a healthy relationship for you and that there wasn't anything more that you could do. Okay, fine. The point being, if you want a different result in your relationship, you are going to have to change your thoughts. You are going to have to change how you feel. That changes how you act. That changes the results. And then you can go from there. let's dive into these tools. I'm going to give you 4 tools, 4 concepts. That's 8 total pieces that can help you have better relationships in your life. So, tool number 1. I like to call this emotional childhood versus emotional adulthood. So, emotional childhood is blaming someone else for how you feel. It's like saying, "You're making me mad. You make me happy. You make me sad." And that's an issue because what it does is it gives responsibility and power to everyone else for how you feel. You're giving away all of your power. And typically, you're going to give it to somebody that isn't capable of making good decisions for how you feel for you because they have them in mind, right? That's called emotional childhood because in childhood, you have no emotional management or responsibility or power. You haven't learned it yet. It's a very helpless, very scary place because you don't feel in control. And in fact, you're not because you gave away all the power to be in control of how you feel. You can only change when you're in emotional childhood if other people change. That's a scary place to be. On the flip side, emotional adulthood, which is where I would love all of us to operate from, means that you are taking full responsibility for your emotions. So you take responsibility for the fact that how you feel is based on what you are choosing to feel, what you are choosing to think. You are making the conscious choice to think what you're thinking, to feel what you're feeling. And all of that comes from intentionally managing and choosing your thoughts, which directly obviously tie into how you feel. So if you don't like how you're feeling, take a look at it and change what you're thinking. This is an example. This actually just happened literally a couple of days ago. I'm pretty sure there was a circus that happened in my house, or maybe I was being punked. I'm not really sure. But let me run through the first 2 hours of my day. Starts with my 4-year-old waking me up at 5 a.m., asking me to play in the toy room with him. He was fully dressed. He had already eaten breakfast. He was like ready to rock and roll. I may or may not have been in a state of not wanting to get up at the moment. I had a late night. I had slept horrible, and it was just way too early. But no worries. I have kids. Took a deep breath, splashed water on my face, made some coffee, ready to rock. So we played for a short bit, albeit my eyes were like half open the whole time before my 9-year-old came in and destroyed a tower that my 4-year-old had just worked on for like 30 minutes. I mean, it was ridiculous. Come to find out later, that was because the 9-year-old was in a horrific mood because he had a terrible nightmare and he was just filled with all this rage, right? Okay. But regardless of the reason, you can imagine that instantly turned into a very loud World War III in my house. Well, that woke up my 2-year-old, who was part of the reason that I had a rough night, and she was definitely not ready to get up. We had a handful of tantrums with her in a matter of 15 minutes over the most ridiculous of things. For example, one tantrum was over the fact that I had cooked her eggs and she wanted eggs, but she didn't want me to cook them, but she didn't want to eat them raw. This is how ridiculous the tantrums were. So there was a handful of tantrums. It was great. Such a conundrum in a 2-year-old's mind. We got the world calmed down. All was good. And I had a meeting in about 30 minutes that I needed a little more time to prep for than that, but that's fine. So I set off to go get myself presentable and ready. And I'm in my bathroom curling my hair and I hear beeping. So my mom brain is running through all the possible things that the beeping could be. It could be the microwave, it could be the washing machine unbalanced, like all the things that could beep, when all of a sudden I hear a man's voice. Now, I'm alone in the house with my kids, so that was concerning. So I quickly moved to the source of this voice, and I hear a man speaking through our security system telling me that he was about to dispatch officers to our house. And I was like, whoa, 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 everything's fine here. Nothing is going wrong in this house, which obviously might have not been exactly true, but nothing that the police needed to be concerned about. And the nice security man tells me that an alarm button was pushed and that I have to give him the verbal passcode. Okay, no problem. Except I don't have the verbal passcode. Okay, cool. So I ask him to patiently wait while I get it from my husband. He texts me the wrong verbal passcode. So I tell the man, the nice security man, he said, "Ma'am, that's not correct. You have one more attempt before I have to dispatch the officers." And I'm like, "Oh my Lord. Okay. Everything's fine here. Everything's fine. This is fun." So I go back to my husband. No, that wasn't right. And he's like, "Oh, sorry." Gives me the verbal passcode. I give it to the officer. All is fine. And we have avoided crisis 13B this morning. Perfect. There was so much more to that story, but hopefully you get the point. It was like one thing after another, all so early in the morning. This is all before 7 o'clock in the morning. So I take a deep breath, crisis averted, and I tell myself it's just a spicy morning, but it's all good. I pick up the pace of packing up the kids, finish getting ready, passing off them and the info to my husband, who's now home, so that he can get them to places they need to go. He can go do what he needs to do, and I can go to my meeting. Well, he interrupts me mid sentence of passing off this information. And he says loudly and brashly, if you will, "How can I help you? Your stress is stressing me out." That wasn't his tone exactly. I can't really copy his tone, but it was intense. Well, instantly, I looked at my tones and my actions and my pace and recognized that that could probably be perceived as stress, even though I didn't feel stressed. I just felt rushed to get the things done, like just needed to pick up the pace. But I committed to changing the way that I was putting myself off because I don't want other people to feel like I'm stressed, even though that's on them. And so I took a deep breath, put the brakes on, and calmly said, "I just need to let you know what needs to be done so that you can take it from here." And he responds, not so calmly, with, "I want to help you. Why won't you let me help you?" But loudly. So maybe not in the nicest tone. I inform him I don't need help. I just need to pass off these monkeys and the information. And he responds, "Fine," like stomps down the hall. Fine. Everything's fine here. So many things happen in this like 23 and a half second interaction. One, I can't make him feel stressed. He is responsible for that. So I don't need to feel guilty or bad or anything about how he feels because that's on him. Two, it is not his responsibility to change how I feel, right? I appreciate the offer, but really all I needed to do was change what I was thinking to calm down how it was that I was behaving, right? Three, and there's more than this, but these are the top three. His reaction could have been hurtful, could have made me mad, or I could have let him have whatever reaction he wanted and thought about it differently, right? It's true. He could have been gentler or kinder if he was following my manual, but I also don't know where his mind was coming from. He came into this circus, which he could tell was just a wreck, and I know that he's not used to seeing me in that state. And so I just chose to assume that his offer came from a place of wanting nothing more but then to truly help me because he loves me and this is his family. So I chose that thought. And I felt grateful that he wanted to help and chose to think about his reaction as him feeling frustrated that there wasn't more he could do and that there was a circus going on in our house. But do you see how it could have turned into crisis number 14 for that morning and a fight between us and this long drawn out World War IV if he and I let it? And in fact, to be totally honest, several years ago, that probably would have been what would have happened. I would have allowed his actions to hurt me, been sad, cried, but I would have thought about it like, you hurt me. You made me sad. I would have walked on eggshells because it was so awkward and been quiet forever until something else changed our focus and this situation slowly diluted and went away. And that's just yuck. No, I would much rather have the power and responsibility to control how I feel, regardless of anybody's actions or words. And because I changed that, we changed nothing between the two of us. Because I changed that, it changed everything. He didn't put in the work, I did. And now I feel completely better. I see things in a different light. I can talk to him with a clear mind. I can respond with a clear, healthy mind. It completely changed our relationship. And it only takes one. Eleanor Roosevelt was very clever, I think, when she said, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent." And it's not just about feeling inferior, it really is. They can't make you feel anything unless that's how you decide to feel. So there's been some research in emotional intelligence that shows that adults who take responsibility for their emotions tend to have better mental health in general and stronger relationships. And so, tool number one, choose emotional adulthood. We can only control us. We have full responsibility over how we feel. Tool number one. Okay, next up is boundaries. Now, boundaries are, I'm going to define them maybe a little bit differently again, but I don't want you to think of boundaries like walls. I really think of them like fences with gates that you control. And they're different for every person in your life. And setting boundaries is all about if you, then I rules that you follow. They're for you, they're not for other people. So they are to honor you. They are to protect you. They are to stay true to you. Boundaries are all about you. So they sound like, if you do this, then I will do this. That's always how they're set up. And sometimes it's appropriate to communicate them to other people, and sometimes your actions will speak them loud and clear enough in the moment. And so you get to decide what that looks like as far as communication. It doesn't have to be this drawn out show of these new boundaries that you have. That's totally up to you. But one of my favorite examples of this, because it's just super clear, and whether you relate to it or not, you can totally understand the point, is if you smoke in the car, I'm going to get out. Notice that I'm not saying you have to quit smoking. I'm not trying to control you. I'm saying if you do something that's not acceptable to me, this is what I'm going to do. If you smoke in the car, I'm going to get out. Another example is having heated conversations with people. I hear all the time people say, like, well, you can't, everybody fights. You can't avoid a fight. One of my favorite myths actually is that everybody fights in relationships. Nope, I don't. I don't. That doesn't mean somebody else doesn't try to with me. I don't. I'll discuss things with you in a calm, logical fashion. But if you yell at me, if you call me names, if you get dramatic with your statements, I will leave the conversation. And we can resume it when it can be done in a caring, loving, mature, logical fashion. I'm not controlling you. I'm setting a boundary for me. If you yell, I will leave. I don't fight. That's it for me. That's just a rule for me. And that's how I maintain that rule, is that that's the boundary. I don't fight. Happy to discuss, not happy to fight. So boundaries are about finding your own agency, and they are for you, not to control other people. Brene Brown, who is just one of my favorite souls on the planet, says it best when she said, daring to set boundaries is about having the courage to love ourselves, even when we risk disappointing others, because they really are about you, not about others. Studies have shown, tons and tons of them have shown, in one simple statement, that boundaries can reduce stress and they can prevent burnout and they can lead to healthier relationships across the board, not just with an intimate relationship, any relationship. So start setting up your fences and your gates, people. So tool number 2, boundaries that focus on you, not on other people. Okay, tool number 3. Let's talk about self-care. Now, I know that you might be getting a little woo-woo vibes from this, but hear me out because this is different. I really believe that you taking care of your own needs is crucial to maintaining healthy relationships. If you rely on other people for your happiness, for positive thoughts, for love, for confidence, then you're giving all of your power to them, and they can't be responsible for that. Nobody can. That means that you are in control of you feeling loved and happy and stable, and nobody can control that but you. You need to take care of your own needs inside and outside of relationships. And if you stand on your own 2 feet, and if the other person in the relationship stands on their own 2 feet, then you have a 4-footed foundation that's super strong. But it needs to be that way in order to be healthy and strong. And Buddha, we all love Buddha, he said, you, yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. So what I'm saying is you cannot rely on other people in your relationship to meet your needs. You have to satisfy those yourself. There's been research in positive psychology that has suggested that self-care in general boosts your happiness and reduces your anxiety and improves interpersonal relationships. The deal, though, is it goes beyond getting your nails done or taking a break. It also goes down as deep as meeting those emotional needs that you have. And so treat yourself like royalty on this one. Take care of your own needs, top to bottom. So that's tool number 3, taking care of you. While that segment was a really short one, it's a pretty big one. That's a pretty important tool. All right. Last tool, a really big one, is dropping the operation manuals that you have for others. So we often, without saying it out loud, without even knowing it, expect people to behave in a certain way or to do certain things. But everyone has their own path. And the only person that we can control is ourselves. The only person we can have expectations for is us. So I remember this several years ago when I told someone something that had happened to me and I was feeling super, super down. And I had a very distinct response that I expected and I thought I needed from them. And it was simple. Like I wanted them to feel bad for me and I wanted them to lift me up with positive affirmations and give me the warmest of smiles and hugs. Super simple, right? Like, why doesn't everyone just do that? Well, that's because that was my manual for other people and how I wanted them to react. But everybody reacts in different ways. And everybody is going to react in a different way to different stories. And because I had this expectation, I felt unsupported and unheard and unloved. But really, those feelings were on me because they were there supporting me and reacting and responding to me and loving me in the way that felt best and true to them. They weren't following my manual, they were following their manual for themselves. And because I was expecting something different, I was disappointed, but they were just being them. This all changed my whole idea on this, and recognizing that we have these sneaky silent manuals when it was at church one Sunday, and the message at church was all about dropping expectations of people, all of them, every expectation, and to be instead appreciative and grateful for what they do say and what they do, and how they're helpful and how they're kind and supportive, but not to expect anything. That's where the manual idea, is all about, is we really do have these silent expectations. And then when someone falls short of these expectations that we don't even communicate to them, we get hurt or frustrated or mad or whatnot. But that's all on us. If we drop every expectation of what they should do, how they should do it, what they should say, how they should say it, and just allow them to be them and be appreciative and grateful for who they are and what they're doing, then we're setting ourselves up for success instead of setting ourselves up for disappointment. So burn those manuals, all of them, and just let people be them. Let them say what they're going to say and do what they're going to do, and then you be you. If you need something, don't expect them to know that. Ask. If you want something, don't expect them to know that. Ask. If there's something specific that needs to be done, and it could be teamwork, tell them, share that with them, have a conversation with them. Expect nothing, communicate everything, and then you're setting yourself up for success. Anne Lamott said, expectations are resentments waiting to happen. Couldn't be more accurate. Every expectation you have, you can automatically expect some sort of frustration, disappointment, resentment, because we can't have expectations for other people. In fact, in cognitive behavioral therapy, they emphasize the importance of managing the expectations that you have of other people in order to reduce conflict and improve relationship satisfaction. They hit that. They say, stop that. So let go of your manuals. Cut all the crud with the silent manuals that you have for people. That's tool number 4. That one's a big one. That one's a really big one. So I just gave you 4 tools. Here's 4 concepts that you can try and adopt if they resonate with you. The first one, I get a lot of pushback on this one, but I believe in it very strongly, is unconditional love. Unconditional love means that you love someone without conditions or without expectations. It's not based on what they do. It's based on who they are. And it's about acceptance and support even when it's tough. That doesn't mean that you need to be in a relationship. It means you get to love them always. And that's always available to you. And love is such an amazing feeling. And that's why I chose to adopt this, because love feels so much better than hate or awkwardness or resentment. You don't have to change the way that you love based on how someone behaves, or if they aren't following this manual that you have for them. You can love somebody with so many boundaries that you never see them. You can love somebody when they're no longer in your life. You can love someone and see them occasionally. You can love them from afar. You can love them if you see them every day. If they are the closest people in the world to you, you can love them and require space. You can love someone and still leave. Unconditional love is up to you, and it's your feeling. You get the benefits of that, not them. You get the benefits. You can love someone and not like them. You can love somebody and not support anything that they're doing. You can love somebody, accept who they are, and not at all be a part of their life. So love is an amazing feeling, and that's something you can choose to feel about someone for exactly who they are, even if you don't want them in your life. You can get to know them, how they tick, what they say, how they behave, recognize that all of that is what makes them them, and love them for being them as a human, no matter what their relationship is to you. Making this shift changed so much for me because instead of feeling hate or frustration or dislike, I just chose love. I love everyone for the human they are and for the soul that they have, for exactly what they say, exactly what they do, all of it. I love them as a whole, and I choose that. Now, what I do with the relationship with them, that's on me. I might not want them in my life. I might want them closer to me. I might want to hang with them on occasion when it works out for both of us. I might want to make more efforts to see them. I might want them in my life every day. But regardless of their relationship with me, again, that's the thoughts that I have about them. I choose to love them. I love people who hurt me. I will continue to love people who are unhealthy for me. I love them all. I love feeling love. Now, like is a different feeling. It's fleeting, it changes. I might not like them, right? But not love, not for me. I choose unconditional love for everyone as a human being, as their soul, and it feels amazing. And then from there, I make choices for me on the relationships that I want to have with them. But love, that's just a rule in my book. Unconditional love for other humans, always. If you're not sure about this one, give it a whirl because it feels amazing to let the anger and the hate and the frustration and the awkwardness and whatever else just melt away. It's just gone. And you have love. And then you have the choice of what you want to do with the what you believe is your relationship with that person. So Brian Tracy said the greatest gift that you can give to others is the gift of unconditional love and acceptance. And I believe it's the greatest gift you can give to yourself. You can love and accept everybody for exactly who they are. You don't have to like them. You don't have to enable them. You don't have to support them. You don't even have to have them in your life. You can still unconditionally love and accept that that is who they are and make your decisions from there. So that's concept number one. Unconditional love is always available to you. Concept number two, challenging relationships, we all have those, are great tools for growth. These tough relationships can help you on your journey to becoming stronger and better and setting boundaries. I always suggest that prior to leaving a relationship or cutting off a relationship or changing the relationship with somebody, that just because it's challenging or it's tough, you find your strength and you find your power in that relationship. You do that by setting your boundaries, by dropping your manuals, by halting any people pleasing, by taking responsibility for your thoughts, for your emotions, your actions. And once you've done that, you have found your power and your strength in that relationship. If you choose to cut it off, if you choose to change where it is from that healthy place, so be it. But unless you've done the work in your struggling, in your challenging, in your tough relationships, whatever is going wrong will continue to follow you. And so, my offer is that you stop relationship hopping when they get rough, stop relationship sabotaging when they get rough, find your strength in each one of them, and then choose what you want to change about that relationship so that it can be healthy and fulfilling or far and distant to you. But that all starts with you and your relationship in every single one, what you are doing in that relationship. So, Diane von Furstenberg said the most important relationship you have in life is the one you have with yourself. And here's the deal, those challenging relationships really are showing you where you might have work to do upon yourself. Do that. And then you can address those relationships. The research on conflict resolution indicates that overcoming challenges together often strengthens bonds too. So if you're not running and instead you're working it out, you might see that a relationship you thought was doomed could actually be a really incredible relationship. So that's concept two, embracing your challenging relationships as a tool for growth before you decide to do anything with those relationships. Okay, the third concept is that relationships have seasons. So, just like nature, relationships go through phases of growth or change and sometimes even dormancy. You might have a relationship that fluctuates between being close and distant, loving and kind, followed by seasons of not talking much. Understanding and accepting that that's just part of relationships takes the pressure off of you to expect that it's going to be amazing all the time. Some relationships have short seasons and then they wither away, and some have cyclical seasons and they always come back to where they started. But regardless of the long term trajectory of any of your relationships, they all have seasons. So expect change, expect fluctuation. And that expectation, that understanding, that acceptance allows you to just accept it as it comes instead of resisting those changes and thinking that something has gone wrong. In Ecclesiastes 3:1, it says, "To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heavens." And so it's saying, like, to everything, there's a season, there's a time, there's a reason. Things will change. That's okay. Relationship life cycle studies have shown that recognizing and adapting to the phases that we have, those changes that we have, can help to maintain that long term connection and satisfaction. So be patient, ride the waves, ride the tides, and we'll talk about when to get out in a little bit, but expect those. Expect that relationships are going to have seasons. All right. And finally, if you feel like you want someone out of your life, okay, you're done, you're cutting it off, do your relationship work with them first. Understand your part in it, learn the lessons, take your responsibility for your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, and then make an informed decision. The problem is that sometimes we are actually causing our own pain. We blame that struggle, that pain on the other person and take them out of our life. But the issue is that that pain, that struggle is still there. And it's just going to show itself again in the next relationship. So sometimes we live with pain that we blame on a specific relationship for decades after the relationship ended. Decades. If you do the relationship work first, remember, this is your part. You're doing your work. You're standing on your 2 feet. You're choosing your thoughts. You're having control over your emotions. If we do that, once you get to a healthy point, you're at a healthy point in the relationship, not the other person. This is about you. Then, if you choose to end it, change your relationship status, then do that. But never run while you are still broken in the relationship, because it will follow you. I love the quote, and unfortunately, I couldn't find where it came from, but it says, "We don't meet people by accident. They are meant to cross our path for a reason." And a lot of times, it's a lesson we need to learn, strength we need to find, power we need to take back. Research on closure and emotional intelligence suggests that resolving conflicts and understanding relationships, this is where your work comes in, can lead to better emotional health of you and clearer decision making. So it's going to allow you to not run from a relationship, but make the healthy decision to end it because it's not good for you. So that's concept number 4. Do the relationship work first before you leave a relationship. So there you have it. You got 4 tools. You've got 4 concepts. I would love for you to put them into action to build better relationships. I do want to mention something here before we sign off. These are 8 very powerful tools and concepts to help you better your relationships. But in a few of them, I mentioned that you should stay and you should do the work before, and on your own, until you're in a healthy place before you leave. This does not apply to relationships in which you are being abused. If you are a victim of physical or emotional abuse, if you're in a situation where you would be putting yourself at danger if you stayed to do your relationship work, get out. You can do your work from afar. You can do your thought work. You can do your belief work. You can work on what you need to work on without being in danger. And in fact, you won't be able to when your brain is literally in survival mode. So if you are not in a safe relationship, you need to get out. Safety first, always. For any relationship where your physical safety is not a concern, remember, it's all about taking responsibility and setting boundaries and caring for yourself and managing your expectations, loving unconditionally, embracing the challenges, recognizing seasons, and just doing the work to really have that all apply to your life. Remember, this is your work, and it only takes you to change the relationship that you have with someone. I also want to remind you that the first relationship that you need to change is the relationship you have with yourself. Start there, put the work and effort into making that a strong foundation so that your other relationships can grow strong from that foundation. Thank you for tuning into Becoming Tantalum. If you found this episode helpful, please share it, please leave a review, and please subscribe. Until next time, I just want to say good luck on working on your relationships. I'm here always. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. But until next time, keep growing and glowing. Have a great week. Thank you for joining me today. If you want to take all of these concepts and tools to a deeper level, apply them to your life, and watch the transformation happen, I would love for you to join the Tantalum Tribe. That's a monthly membership where all of our community has access to live coaching, self-paced courses, guest coaches, podcast study guides, anonymous question boards, and more. You too can transform your life using the tools and strategies that we have with accountability built in from our community. I really hope that you join us at tantalumcoaching.com. That's TANTALUM coaching.com. Just click join the tribe. I can't wait to see you in there.
An ironic media production. Visit us at ironickmedia.com.